Hell to the fellowship. We thank you guys for tuning in. I am your nerdy normie reviewer, the Elvin Barber, and joining me, as always, is the Laura loyalist himself, TC, the Token Cripple.
Hello.
And we're those guys. TC, did you catch that article by it was by Bounding about Warner? I'm gonna see if I can put it up here. Apparently they're trying to throw everything but the kitchen sink at this next Superman movie.
That's not going to do shit.
Here we go. Here we go. Let's see here. Rumor Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav ordered James Gunn to stack Superman Legacy with more DC characters to lure potential buyers, sir. Buyers.
Okay. Couple things to say.
Go for it.
One, at least they acknowledge they're trying to bring in on an audience, and hopefully they won't be freaking idiots about their marketing. Two, try making a movie that can survive on word of mouth alone. If you make a movie good enough that can survive on word of mouth alone, you'll be fine.
Precisely.
You don't need every character ever created in DC Comics.
Oh man. You know, what was that one film? What was it? Was the Spider-Man? Was it No Way Home? Was that what it was?
Yeah. That did well. I mean, honestly, it did the cameos pretty well because they actually mattered to the story. But it also, they did exactly what everyone was saying they would do, is learn the wrong lesson. Cameos, cameos, cameos. It's like,
Exactly.
no, it's not the fact that they were cameos. It was the fact that they were cameos that people cared about and they mattered into the story.
Yeah,
It didn't just happen.
I'm gonna start doing these. Oh, are you good? Kind of. I just hear muffling.
Oh, you do? I think I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna start calling these things the No Way Home effect, where they just try to cram in a bunch of cameos, thinking that it's going to help elevate their products. I mean, you even said it yourself. You said, the cameos in that particular movie was needed. They were, necessary to the plot to move it forward. They just weren't thrown in for no particular reason. They all had a job to play, a role essentially in the story and the arc. So it worked, and then it had that word of mouth, right? People were going to see this movie 2, 3, 4 times and telling other people and telling other people. So of course, that's why that made over $1 billion. But Zaslav wanting to throw every DC character in this movie it's not a good look. It's not good at all.
And our opinion, I don't think our opinion has changed that I'm not overly impressed with the Gunn slate.
No.
Personally, at least.
I mean, who the hell? I mean, The Authority.
No one's heard of them.
Exactly. The Authority. Come on. And then even with the characters they're bringing into the Superman Legacy film, I believe Guy Gardner is one of the Green Lanterns. I'm like, out of all the Green Lanterns you could have chosen, I mean, hell, why not Hal Jordan or John Stewart? I mean,
those are the two. You either have Hal Jordan because of mass appeal, or you have John Stewart because of the cartoon.
Exactly. If you're gonna do fan service, at least bring in some actual fucking characters that people a normie could possibly know. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's fucking Kilowog at least. I don't give a fuck any Green Lantern. But not hating on Guy Gardner, I'm just saying. And then Fillion, he's actually playing a role, which I like him as an actor. So
Nathan Fillion?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I like him as an actor. It sucks that he has to take, roles like this in a dying IP, but yeah. So it looks like from this article, James Gunn was originally out to craft a simpler story, which probably would have worked until he received orders from on high to throw more characters into the script, which
You know what they need to do? They need to have comic book fans write these stories. And
Oh,
I think Gunn kind of qualifies. I think he is much more invested in the fringe comics than the mainline. But, you know, as soon as you start having studio interference, it gets boned.
precisely, precisely. Whenever there's a lot of notes, they throw in more notes, and then the notes lead to more reshoots, and then leads to more editing and production time, and then that's when your story takes a nosedive. That's when it takes a nosedive. You know, it's funny that you said they should have it's like some nerds or some people who know canon write these stories. It's funny you say that because I saw something on Twitter the other day. It was like an article. I'd have to find it, but it read like Kevin Feige was talking to a writer about a particular project. I don't remember which one it was, but it said Kevin Feige called that writer a nerd. Called him a nerd because this writer wanted to respect the source material enough or incorporate more of the source material. But Kevin Feige wasn't having that, so he called him a nerd.
See, when I say a nerd, I mean it as a compliment.
Yeah.
But when Kevin Feige says it, it's definitely an insult.
Yeah.
He doesn't like. There's a reason why nerds have their space. It's because, there's lore and shit that people like and they're invested in. Let somebody who knows that shit and knows why they love it write the story.
Precisely. Oh, here I found it. Because I don't want people to think that I'm just saying some bullshit. And it actually wasn't a writer. Well, I'm sure he was probably a writer as well. But it was a director. Here we go. Kevin Feige told Marvel's director, "You're being too much of a nerd." Yeah.
That's exactly the wrong way to look at things, sir. Good for you for doing the exact wrong thing.
According to the director, DaCosta, this is the Ms. Marvel's director, by the way. According to the director, Nia DaCosta, one of the biggest challenges of creating the film was being a little too attached to the comic book source material. Yeah.
Wait, so the director wanted was this the director he called too much of a nerd?
Yeah, it says the biggest challenge was finding the balance between my point of view as a director and as a comic book nerd. She told the outlet, obviously there are changes between the comics and the movies, and sometimes I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Sometimes Kevin Feige would be like, "You're being too much of a nerd. Please stop."
That's like that's awful business acumen.
Yeah, really.
I've always been a proponent of, if you're going to do an adaptation of something, especially something beloved for something that has nearly a century of history behind it, you want either the original author, and if you can't get an original author, you want the nerdiest bastard you can find to be the ultimate say-so, because then they won't cut out shit that they can afford to keep in, and the only cutout absolutely needs to be cut out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what you need.
So that alone tells me that, so when I see stuff like that, I'm like, okay, now I know why all these projects, all this Marvel product has been shit. Like this explains it right here.
I mean, we knew they had disdain for fans, but I never heard them call one of their own people a nerd in a derogatory way. Like, it's never been so. The mask has never been so off.
It really hasn't. It really hasn't. Like Hollywood is in fucking shambles right now. Is in shambles, and especially Disney. We'll get into that. We have a whole video coming for that. But yeah, everything is in freaking shambles, man. I mean, look at Zaslav here. He thinks just throwing in, a gallery of DC characters are gonna, pique the intrigue of potential buyers for for this IP. I honestly just don't see that happening. I don't think people want that type of, debt. So
you know what happened? They've already done this, and it was called the Snyderverse. And you know what happened because of that? Justice League.
Yes.
And then the Snyder Cut, which was no better. I'm sorry, guys.
Sorry, Snyder Cut fans. Oh man, yeah. So this isn't this isn't going to pique any buyer's interest. This has probably hurt the film. You know, I didn't James Gunn. You know, he's his directing style. It was like perfect. You know, we've discussed this. It's like perfect for like Guardians of the Galaxy, Suicide Squad. You know, he's quirky, he's offbeat. You know, his tone, his humor. You know, it works for those type of films. You know, and Superman is and his character is not really doesn't really embody any of those types of things. So people were a little leery anyway when it came to him writing and directing this film. But you know what? It's James Gunn. He did pretty well for his movies and Marvel. So I feel like a lot of fans were willing to give him, a shot at least. You know, he's a pretty good director. But I feel like, from taking a simple story that he wanted to do and now we want to throw in these extra elements, and that completely changes the whole dynamic of the film, plot, everything. I think DC's fucked.
See, James Gunn, I at least would say he cares and he genuinely wants to do well and he wants to do right by the characters.
Right.
I don't know if you can go with somebody as free as established as Superman and get the same sort of cult following that you got from Guardians of the Galaxy, which, as I've said before on the channel, had the entirety of the MCU at that point.
Yeah.
For goodwill.
Yeah.
But DC hasn't had any reliable wins since the Dark Knight trilogy. Joker was pretty much one in a million fluke, really.
It was an outlier. It was supposed to be a standalone. No one saw that coming for it to do as well as it did. Like, no one saw that coming.
I didn't even think that was a story anybody wanted to see, but I was actually rather impressed with it.
Likewise.
I'll be honest, I was genuinely impressed with how that was executed.
Likewise. Yeah, I love that freaking film. But you're right. Aside from the Dark Knight trilogy, Joker, I mean, they really haven't put out any films that has really moved the needle. I mean, the first Shazam was okay, but didn't really do much. The Batman, I mean, I think that made $800 million, so it was all right. I mean, it made enough for a sequel. That third act was like long as hell. Like, it was probably probably a half hour to 45 minutes too long, to be honest. But I enjoyed it, but that those are outliers. And then you had Shazam 2, that didn't do well. You had Black Adam, that didn't do well. You had The Flash, that didn't do well. Blue Beetle's already projecting to open up domestically with $15 to $17 million. The director's trolling fans. That's not going to do well.
And they called Batman a fascist.
Yeah, they call Batman a fascist. They're completely taking a shit on your fans.
And no one's going to let that go. Trust me.
No one is. No one is. And now he's begging for people to come watch his film. And people are like, go fuck off. Then next we have Aquaman 2 that's coming out, and the director came out and said, oh, give this movie a shot. It's a standalone. It's like, do you know what a fucking standalone is? It's not, because it's a sequel to the first Aquaman. So like,
which itself references the Snyderverse.
Exactly. So. It's not a standalone. This movie is gonna be shit. Like, DC is I'm not saying Marvel's doing any better. Like, I'm not saying DC, like, they're all just doing it's shit. Everything is fucking trash right now.
DC's catching up, but it's not because DC's gotten any better.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing about, I feel like that's the thing about Marvel and DC. Like, at least with Marvel, like, they started off doing like really fucking well and then fucking dropped off a cliff. With DC, like, they've never really had that peak. I mean, aside from the Dark Knight trilogy, I mean, they really never had that consistent, like, uphill peak then it's just kind of been steady to like downhill. So like there's really nothing, people can't really go, oh man, remember that time in DC when they were fucking flourishing? Like you really can't say that. You really can't say that.
The thing is, like, the time when DC really was flourishing, that was the OG Superman movie back in the 70s.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the Batman movies in the 80s and early 90s. They haven't, like, the only consistent hit they've had since is the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yes.
Everything else, there's been a single fluke. And I'm sorry, I don't think they're going to be able to catch lightning in a bottle with the Joker again.
No, I feel like people probably go just out of curiosity. You know, I think people are now, I feel like everyone's kind of, their eyes are kind of open now. You know, they're not falling for their, you know, Hollywood's bullshit. People are much more, you know, careful and more cautious and, you know, being very, you know, not reserved, but I want to say being very, you know, apprehensive about what they watch now. And they kind of go to YouTube and see these critic things before they even go and watch a film. But I think because the Joker, how well it did do, I think people are curious to how it is going to be. And I think if it doesn't live up to the hype, I think it's going to fucking fall as fast as The Flash did. So
I don't think it'll do, like, I don't think it'll bomb. I think it'll do all right.
Yeah.
Will it do enough to make it a hat trick? I doubt it.
No. I will say I think it will do better than the slate of DC films that's come out this year. I will say that.
No doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I will give it that. But I mean, that's one film alone can't save a company. So it cannot. But yeah, I mean, any you know, anything else you want to comment on?
This is a point where we've been repeating, and I'm going to repeat it again. Tell a good story first. Don't, like, cameos and shit. That's gravy. Unless the cameos are integral to the story itself, cameos are gravy. Give me something that doesn't need gravy first, and then add it. Then
we'll see. Story-driven content. What's that? I don't remember that. What is that? Oh man. All right. Well, we thank you guys for tuning in. We do ask that you smash that like button, subscribe, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think. Hit that bell for notifications, share this video out there, and you guys take care.
Bye, everybody.